Alright, so recent studies reveal that 100% of abortions are performed on women who do not wish to be pregnant, and 0% of abortions are performed on conservative Republican men. As of the Supreme Court case of Roe v. Wade back in 1973, abortion was made legal across the U.S., but there are still 20 states today that enforce abortion prohibitions. If you can look at this diagram, there's a map. This is a map of pro-choice grades. This is basically the dark blue states are the ones that support abortion, and the white states are the ones that are anti-abortion. So as you can see, we live in one of them. So the female right to our reproductive system, to our all reproductive system, is in jeopardy. And pro-choice advocates seek to erase the criminalization of abortion and shed light on how bloody this moral debate has become. Honestly, ladies, your futures are at stake here, because if you allow the government to outlaw abortion, you are allowing them to strip you of your constitutional human rights. So today, I am going to convince you all that abortion should be legalized, and it should serve as a fundamental right that's available to everyone. So, looking at about face from the court and to the individual woman, the controversy has gained so much momentum, and I cannot stress how bloody and misinformed many people have become. So, all women should basically be equal. All women should receive equal access to abortion. But due to personal beliefs of many people, and especially anti-choice or anti-abortion legislators, women are being actively denied abortions. Just last week, the Supreme Court actually ruled, had a rule that would keep abortion clinics open in Texas, because the lower federal court was trying to close the abortion clinics. There's about 19 open right now, and if the federal court was allowed to continue as it was doing, then it would have dropped to about maybe under 10. This is actually a testimony from a pro-choice advocator that demonstrates how hospitals and clinics are denying women abortions just because of their personal beliefs, and this can cause women to die. I lost a baby brother at something like 14 weeks because he detached to the uterine mold backward, and when he started kicking, he tore himself away and hemorrhaged to death. You goddamn pro-lifers were ready to let my mother die with him rather than killing him before God's time. He was already dead. It was a matter at that point of him bleeding out, and my mother was bleeding with him. This is the 5-4 ruling of the Supreme Court, and this is actually a picture of the Supreme Court making its rule on the abortion clinics in Texas. And as you can see, making abortion illegal will not actually make it stop. In fact, you will be killing more people than you think that you are saving. As you see that sign there, you're just voting to make abortion unsafe. Women will and historically have resorted to dangerous measures to terminate pregnancy. According to the DC Abortion Fund in the pre-Roe v. Wade era, women would consume household poisons such as Lysol and stick foreign objects into their uterus to terminate pregnancy, such as coat hangers, Coke bottles, and all of that, and things such as that. The Atlantic even emphasizes that this is a tool of last resort and an act of desperation. The access to safe and legal abortion is very important. This is the story of a woman and her experience in Honduras. She lived there for a few years, and she spent time volunteering at an orphanage. But she met these 3 amazing brothers, and she learned that these brothers were orphans because some few years ago, their mother, who was alone and struggling to care for the kids she already had, became pregnant. And she was denied safe and legal access to abortion in Honduras, and so she was forced to look for a back alley abortion in unsafe settings. And this caused her to bleed to death or basically caused these children to lose their mother and become orphans. So as demonstrated, unsafe abortions will only increase if it is outlawed. As an example, the New York Times actually had an article that mentioned that clinics in Mexico might actually, or pharmacies in Mexico might actually be the second alternative for women looking for abortions. there's actually abortion pill providers who suggest that when women go to Mexico to look for abortion pills, they say that they are very unregulated, and the people at the Mexican pharmacies may not be trained or professional, and they will give them incorrect advice because basically abortion is illegal outside of the Mexican capital, and from there the women will not get the results they seek. A study was actually done by Dr. Grossman. He published it in a 2011 issue of the Reproductive Health Matters journal. There was a 30-year-old woman from Texas who sought an alternative to abortion for financial issues and because they were denying her abortion in Texas. So she took the pill offered to her from across the border, and she, in her 13th week of pregnancy, and she began to bleed so bad she had to be admitted into the hospital. But after that whole ordeal, she said that she would do it again because they were denying her safe access to abortion, and she didn't want to have to choose between parenting or adoption. There's also another case where unsafe abortions will increase. It's called, an article in The Nation called Dr. Kermit Gosnell's Horror Show demonstrates a former doctor from Philadelphia actually was charged with 8 counts of murder a few years back because he ran an illegal abortion clinic. But this abortion clinic had blood spattered everywhere, broken equipment, and cat feces just laying about everywhere. This left 2 women dead and several babies documented and undocumented murdered. This isn't the legal abortion though, this is illegal abortion because he actually had the child delivered and he brought the child into the world as a living, breathing thing, but it wasn't a proper abortion. He actually murdered these children by taking a pair of scissors and snipping their spinal cords. And he trained his assistants to do so. Unlicensed assistants who were teenagers and didn't have the proper skills in the medical area. And so, without the proper knowledge of abortion and their freedom of choice, women become confined and disempowered. As you can see here, a quote from the Edinburgh's Expression website, almost every line spouted by pro-lifers is a lie, designed to make women afraid of abortion and feel ashamed of themselves and their experience. So I'm going to try and debunk some of the myths that pro-lifers or anti-abortionists will spread to persuade women to not get abortion. So, by show of hands, who thinks here that abortion causes breast cancer? Anyone? This is actually a study. Pro-lifers will use studies to try to suggest that the abortion actually causes breast cancer, but this is false. According to the National Cancer Institute, along with a lot of recent studies, there is no correlation between breast cancer and abortion. Though the reason that this is such a contested topic is that older research studies conducted by anti-abortionists and maybe even current studies will often use a small amount of women to test on, and they will only take data from after breast cancer is diagnosed. And they will also get the data for these women from self-reports instead of their actual medical records. So that gives a lot of leeway for these women to lie about previous miscarriages or abortions. And so when newer studies have actually they've actually refined what was previously done wrong to produce more reliable studies. Like, for example, they use a larger group of women. They get data from before breast cancer is diagnosed, and they actually look at medical records to confirm the validity of it. This is also another myth that is spread by anti-abortionists. This is what an abortion looks like. But as a matter of fact, this is false. Anti-abortionists will show people graphic photos of aborted fetuses which look like they are fully developed, but that is a lie. These images that they use are usually late-term miscarriages, and that is not the fault of the mother, and it isn't intentional. It's usually because of biological just mishaps. Late-term abortions happen because the baby's already dead, suffering abnormalities that would kill it upon birth, or is actively killing the pregnant person. And late-term abortions only make up about 1% of the actual number of abortions. And as you can see here in this image, this is what a real abortion looks like. The baby isn't really fully formed until about 12 weeks, well into their first trimester, second trimester, and so basically it's just a blob of stuff right there. It isn't really formed or anything, and it's basically just kind of like a liquid. liquid, and there's no actual form of baby there. And this is another myth spread by anti-abortionists. First trimester fetuses are conscious and can feel pain, but this is also false. Because you know the neocortex in your brain, that is what allows you to have awareness and basically you feel pain and such. That doesn't start developing until the 20th week of pregnancy. And it doesn't actually start to function until the 28th week. And even so, their pain receptors and nerve receptors are extremely, extremely weak. And the neocortex doesn't even develop fully until after birth. So these babies, no matter what you think, they are not actually feeling any pain when they are aborted in early abortions. And this was from a study done by Mark Rawson, an obstetrical anesthesiologist at the University of California at San Francisco. This is another point that I'd like to address. There are other options to abortion. But surprisingly, this is true. There's parenting and adoption, but wait. Financial concerns are the most common reason women seek abortion. That's about 73% of the abortions that are undergone. But you know what anti-abortion laws actually do? They don't stop abortions, but they make it more expensive. And so women who are systematically priced out of getting abortions, they just fall deeper into economic difficulty because they are forced to either take care of a child or put it up for adoption. But the problem with putting it up for adoption is that there are already 153 million orphans just all around the world, from Africa, from Asia, and from here in the United States. And so what I want to ask you all is, if you want abortion outlawed, how many unwanted children will you adopt? Because there are so many in the system already. I just wanted to address something really quick. Anti-abortionists will also try to scare women out of having abortions. Pro-lifers will sometimes say that, oh, crisis pregnancy centers are an alternative to abortions. But this is a lie. These clinics actually spread lies. They try to attract women to their clinic, but it's fake. And they misinform women and show them graphic images like some pro-lifers will have on their signposts and protests. And they will try to scare them out of getting an abortion. And they will also sometimes lie to women and try to trick them and say that, oh, you're not pregnant anymore. And so they will be forced to carry out labor to the child, and they won't even know. And that might keep them from getting prenatal care, and it can endanger their health. There's also been a history of abortion clinic bombings by pro-life extremists. This is just an example of one. There was a security guard killed, and the clinic nurse and counselor was horribly damaged. Up to this day, she's had to undergo over 3 dozen surgeries just to sew back her eyelids, sew back her legs together. And this is because they did not want people to have abortions. And instead of, you know what, they killed more people than they're saving, honestly. So maybe you can't take a bullet, you can't take a bomb, so how are you all going to stop anti-abortionists from painting the state of blood red? Well, my answer for you is become pro-choice and understand how abortion positively affects women. By becoming pro-choice and understanding what abortion is basically gives you the leeway to educate others and stop the misinformation that anti-abortionists spread. You can help you and others view abortion in a more positive light and have women stop being labeled as murderers. I'm going to have a little education plan for you right here. First, you got to understand why women get abortions. I already explained to you that financial issues are a very big deal here. There's a graph right here that explains how the percentages of how many people get abortions due to their financial problems. But there's also sexual assault as a problem to why people have abortions. There was a study done by the Medical University of South Carolina back in 1996 that was trying to document the rape-related pregnancies. And what they found out was that 5% of women who are raped get pregnant, and that's about 32,000 pregnancies. So although it is a small percentage, it's not an insignificant number. And as a third, and one of the most important reasons that women get abortions is because of their health problems. There are late-term miscarriages, and there's also problems where the woman cannot carry the baby properly. And I'm actually going to go more into depth into depth with that here. So these are abortion procedure basics. I'm not going to go into detail with it, but basically there are early abortions and there are late-term abortions before 18 weeks and after 18 weeks. Basically, in these early abortions, the baby isn't really fully formed yet. So for the medical abortion, they consume a pill which is usually a combination of mifepristone and misoprostol, and that basically has the uterus shed their lining, which naturally disposes of the fetus. The surgical is where you basically stick a tube up the uterus and you empty the contents of the uterine, and so that basically just takes the baby out. And this usually happens as early abortions. And for late-term abortions, these only occur if the baby is dead, dying, or posing a threat to the mother's health. Like the early labor induction is done. It's like you take a pill similar to the medical abortion, and it forces the mother. It doesn't force the mother. It has the mother go into labor to get rid of the dying fetus. Dilation and evacuation basically is the same as the surgical early abortions. And you stick that tube up the uterus and you empty the uterine contents, because fetal tissue remaining after miscarriage can actually cause infection to the mother and potentially kill her. Intact dilation and extraction is an extreme form of that previous abortion, dilation and evacuation, where they extract the fetus from the womb, and they basically just perform it on parents who would like to hold their dead or dying child. And so this is probably the last step. I'm not going to get into a moral debate with y'all about this, but you got to get it out of your head. Abortion isn't murder. About 7 or 8 people on my audience analysis actually said that abortion is murder or some form of that. And honestly, I'm not going to get into a moral debate about for y'all, but the definition by a person by law is an entity that is recognized by law as a separate and independent individual with legal rights and existence, including the ability to be sued, show up in court, receive gifts, all that stuff. So in regards to the fetus, I can't even take that bitch to court. So honestly, I wouldn't consider it as a person. The definition of murder by itself means like malicious, unlawful, and unwanted termination of a person. But no one gets an abortion because they're feeling sort of malicious towards a fetus. They get it due to the reasons I mentioned before. So after tripping, stumbling, and crawling past this savage debate, the path ahead of us may not be clear, but the legalization of abortion will guide us to a safe and bright future. Here's a list of basically the benefits of legalizing abortion. There will be crime rate reductions. Like as an example, a study done by Stephen D. Levitt, who has a PhD by the way, actually said that after the legalization of abortion, after maybe about 18 years, there was shown a sharp decrease in the crime rate. And states who legalized abortion earlier had their crime rates drop earlier. Coincidence? And obviously, the legalizing abortion means that there will be population control, and I don't think I need to explain that, but it will also reduce welfare costs to taxpayers, because the Congressional Budget Office was trying to actually evaluate an anti-abortion bill that was trying to ban abortion after 20 weeks across the nation, across all of the states, but they found out in that evaluation that the state would suffer about $225 million deficit after 9 years due to these increased births. And these are kind of some obvious things, benefits like reduction of maternal injury, the empowerment of women for having the choice of their own body, and the woman's freedom to pursue higher education and careers. Every child will be a wanted child, and honestly, abortion is 30 times safer than giving birth. These are the drawbacks of outlawing abortion. You basically force women to have unwanted children, and unwanted children can face very crippling emotional handicaps such as stunted intellectual and educational development, as well as having dysfunction in their adult lives. Unwanted children are more likely to get into juvenile delinquency. They are more likely to abuse alcohol and drugs, and they're proven to be less adaptive to frustration and stress, a handicap that continues into adulthood. And honestly, you may be increasing the chance of the next serial killer or psychopath from being born. You can see a correlation between these two lists. If you illegalize abortion, you won't be getting any of the benefits you see here. Like the crime rates will actually increase, if you illegalize abortion, and the population will increase as well. Welfare costs to taxpayers will increase because actually unwanted children are most likely going to have to need welfare. And women may fall deeper into financial disadvantage. And if you continue down the list, you can cross-reference and see that you won't be receiving any of the benefits. And so what if you are still thinking, what if? What if the child you are aborting will cure cancer, solve world hunger, world thirst, and etc.? What if that child turns out to be a very important person that will influence our world in a very important way? You will never know because you aborted it. But honestly, I got your answer to that, because people don't abort healthy children. Actually, as I said, 12% of the reasons people get abortions is because of financial issues and medical complications. Like perhaps the mother would have a miscarriage that could cost them their life, or the child would suffer some debilitating medical issue that could kill them upon birth, or go farther into their life and basically cause impediments in social and medical arenas. And parenting as an alternative to abortion is a burden, and that goes double for teen pregnancies, because you're basically forcing a teenager to give birth, and you're forcing them to have to choose between their child and education, because managing these two at the same time is very difficult, and it's hard to accomplish one without leaving the other impoverished. And adoption as that alternative, another alternative, is a very, very poor choice, because the adoption process is long and hard. Emma may know something about this, and they're running out of resources. There are so many children in circulation already, and by opting to put more into the system, you are actually pressing resources, starving them more, and making the competition more desperate. Instead of placing more children into adoption, you should be thinking about the ones that are already there. By putting more into the system, you are systematically killing the future of any future Einstein or the ifs and maybes in the adoption process. You are killing their futures by increasing that competition. So from the struggle to the statistics and to the battleground of it all, I've told you supporting the thorough legalization of abortion is a favor to women all around the world. You're saying that women deserve empowerment, they deserve to control their own bodies, and they deserve the right to make decisions for themselves and their future. I've told you about the past, the present, and the future struggle for abortion, and how you can help in keeping it safe and legal. I've even passed on to you the truths of the procedure and the movement as a whole, and tried to debunk some of those misinformation concepts for you. The next woman needing an abortion may actually be someone you know. But if Texas continues down the road that it's on, or the United States in general, no one will be getting a second chance. And when it is made illegal, it will affect everyone in this room, no matter your race, age, or gender. So no matter what your moral standings are on abortion, I can tell you this. Being pro-choice means that you think women deserve the right over their own bodies. You think you're saying women matter. By being pro-life, you are saying that a fetus matters before a woman, and that's in some cases a girl. And so that's your move, conservatives. Thank you.
All right.